An ACLU blog post got some attention by the media recently. Amazon teams up with government to deploy dangerous new facial recognition technology was the headline. This story was covered in The Verge, The Washington Post, and The Guardian, among other publications. Amazon, The Guardian begins, is supplying facial recognition technology to the government and law enforcement agencies. Branded Recognition, the technology is every bit as dystopian as it sounds. The news stories I read all share a similar perspective on that topic. That Amazon sharing facial recognition software with the government is a harbinger of a grim, dark, Orwellian future. Again, quoting The Guardian, ubiquitous automated facial recognition is well suited for discriminating against people of color, targeting political activists, and otherwise supporting militaristic and authoritarian modes of government. End quote. I did a double take on the idea that facial recognition software could be racist, but the article links to an Electronic Frontier Foundation paper, which makes a pretty good argument by pointing out that current facial recognition software is more likely to make mistakes when identifying black people, and black people compose a disproportionate share of mugshot photos that the police may have on file and may use to train their facial recognition systems. Anyway, I have two problems with how the story is being presented by the ACLU and the various news organizations that are reporting on the story. First, the news stories try to make it seem like something dark or shady is going on, when in fact everything is completely above board. The Verge starts off saying, documents obtained by the ACLU of Northern California have shed new light on Recognition, Amazon's little-known facial recognition project, end quote. To me, the headlines and introductions in the news stories all make it seem like something dark or shady is being unearthed by these intrepid investigators. In reality, though, the documents obtained are basically marketing materials. Recognition is a tool in Amazon Web Services, which is a publicly available set of software tools that literally anyone can sign up for and use. On Amazon's webpage for Recognition, they list some of their customers, giving their product complimentary quotes, including the Washington County Sheriff Office. So I don't think readers are necessarily getting the idea that this is not some kind of alliance between Amazon and the deep state, or that Amazon is not doing special work for the government or for law enforcement. Instead, Amazon just offers software which some law enforcement agencies are using. In a way, this would be like discovering that some computers at the CIA run Microsoft Windows and running a story titled, Microsoft is working with the CIA to bring about murderous drone campaigns. Or finding out that NSA employees sometimes do Google searches and writing a story that says, Alphabet is giving cutting-edge machine learning data retrieval technology to the NSA, and the NSA are spying on American citizens. These headlines are technically kind of true, but also kind of misleading. Now, you may object to that metaphor by claiming that Amazon is providing its commercial software in a domain that is directly applicable to the problematic thing. In other words, Microsoft sells an operating system, but that operating system doesn't just specifically run killer drones. But that's kind of the same thing here. Amazon's recognition software does a lot of different things. It does a lot of different recognition of people and objects. It doesn't just help the police violate civil liberties of minorities, although it could be used for that. So this objection also connects to the second problem I have with a set of articles in the ACLU. And this is that the remedy that the ACLU suggests, which is that Amazon stop selling governments the recognition service, this remedy is not a very good remedy. And there are two reasons why it's kind of myopic. First, simply banning the government as a customer would be complicated. Could contractors working on behalf of government agencies use recognition? And how would Amazon know? And how would they be expected to disentangle who is a contractor and who's working for whom? Anyone can set up a recognition account as easily as you can create an Amazon account. But the second main reason that I think asking Amazon to ban the government as a customer is a bad idea is that Amazon doesn't have a unique edge in facial recognition. Amazon's innovation is in building the system and making it easy to use so that all you have to do is just upload a bunch of labeled names and faces and then send pictures of unnamed faces for Amazon to identify for you. Facial recognition itself is a huge topic in computer science with a lot of work already being done. I'm not aware of any evidence at all that suggests that Amazon is an especially capable participant in the field of facial recognition. A paper on the 2017 IARPA Face Recognition Challenge, which is a government-held contest to participate in various intelligence-related tasks. That paper didn't list Amazon as even one of the participants or as a winner of any kind. Whereas if recognition were an especially capable bit of face recognition software, you'd expect that some random person would just create a recognition account and use it to win the contest. So facial recognition algorithms are widely known and widely available online, and the government is more than capable of hiring experts to implement these known algorithms, iterate on them, improve them, and make them available to law enforcement agencies. And in addition, not only is the government capable of doing this, but there are many companies other than Amazon capable of doing this as well. Asking Amazon not to sell to the government, in other words, is not a good idea, because presumably not only would Amazon rather have the government's money than the ACLU's appreciation, but any other company or the government itself could replace Amazon by making their own facial recognition software and selling it to the government to use for whatever purposes they want. So if the government should not own facial recognition software and should not be able to track citizens by their faces, then we should just make laws that prevent the government from doing that, rather than asking a single company not to work with state or federal governments. There's a broader question outside of this, which is, should the government be able to use facial recognition regardless of who is supplying it? On the one hand, the benefits are pretty clear. A police officer pulling over a car could get an automatic warning that the person he or she was pulling over was likely a violent felon. Finding suspects who are at large in the community could be done a lot easier if random cameras on the street could flag the suspect as he or she went about their daily business. Arrest warrants, bail, and probation would all become a lot more compelling as the government got better and better at catching people who disregarded those things, which they could do with advanced facial recognition. Facial recognition and large-scale video surveillance could also make restraining orders more effective by automatically detecting violations of the restraining order, as an example. On the other hand, knowledge of where citizens are and what they are doing at all times is an extraordinary power to hand to a government that we may not always be able to trust. The point about the facial recognition system being potentially racist I don't think is very compelling for the long term. Obviously, if the government were going to put such a system in place, it would need to be equally effective at identifying faces across all racial groups. So this is really just a current deficiency of the software and not a fundamental property of facial recognition, that it's not good at recognizing minority faces. So giving the government this power, which is the power to have a catalog of where you've been every minute of every day, which is the logical extension of facial recognition, and enough cameras to blanket urban areas, with the cameras recording all the time and reporting to a centralized system which would ID you by your face and log your position along with the date and time, it's frightening to give the government that kind of power, because the government could absolutely use such power to shut down political dissidents or stop behaviors or individuals that it didn't like. Throughout human history, there has been a fundamental balance to power in human societies. A select few people have always been able to become elites or attain riches or political or social power. But the balance is that if the rest of us find those elites too burdensome, we are then free to overthrow and kill them. In the coming technological revolution, this balance in power is about to shift as the elites gain powers that they've never had before in human history. Technologically advanced policing is one such power. As AI, robotics, automation, facial recognition, and computers all become more advanced, the elites are going to become capable of doing things that they've never been able to do before, and this is going to throw off that balance. The elites will become capable of resisting or perhaps defeating the mob, and this is a dystopia which I think we need to be aware of and actively resist creating. Restricting the government from getting access to systematic facial recognition software integrated with law enforcement may or may not be a good idea. I'm not entirely convinced either way. But I'm also concerned about the elites in general having access to this power, not just law enforcement. Even if the government was restricted from using facial recognition, no such law would prevent Facebook or companies like that from using facial recognition in a dystopian ways. And Facebook already has a database of names and faces to start off their facial recognition surveillance. So tell me what you think. Do you think that facial recognition in the hands of the government is a good idea or a bad idea? Do you think Amazon should be prevented from selling their software to the government? why or why not? And please try to tell me what you think is the best and worst possible use case for facial recognition software. Best meaning, where can we get the most value from it? And worst meaning, what's the worst way it could be used against us? If you enjoyed this video, then please let me know by clicking the like button. If you're interested in seeing more content in a similar style, go ahead and click subscribe. Thanks for your time.